All right, Jed, let me play this fun intro and then we'll get started. I see you there. We're already live on Facebook. It's going to do a little intro so we can give us some time for people to come in and so we can share. Hang on. Todd Medina, SoulogyOneStudios, coming to you from the front line of the ascension, the unveiling, the apocalyptic trip that we're all on. And it's nothing to be afraid of. Put your energy into it. That's the only way to take it. If we got a chance in this thing, the best thing you can do is act like you do. Let's do it. What do you think we came here for, this life? It's a choice, not a chore. Yeah. For too long, we have denied and defied and ignored. Yeah, with a little help to keep us in the dark from the devils, the cabals, and the Illuminati. But guess what? They are our creation. Just like the racism and the sexism, the homophobia, the wars, and all the isms. But can't you see the power of the words, I gotta be me? Yeah. Same thing as I am soul. That's what this is all about. That's how we light this world up. We are the spark and the flame. Things aren't the same anymore. Ask yourself, what are you living for? Something you were told, something you never questioned. All those rules that you followed, but who made those rules? The same ones who taxed our lives and our pockets, our children and our parents? Yeah. Ill-contrived, full of lies, taking profits, making them gods, all the time using them to keep us at odds with each other. Yeah. Creating ownership, possession. That's against the law. The only law that matters. The universal law. It's a violation. Can't you see? If it's not good for the universe, it's not good for you or me. Hell no. The only thing we own is our soul. And nobody can take it from us, and nobody can save it for us. So don't think when you take a stand, you identify with a clan, a political brand, a culture, color, label, or creed. It's a darkness you feed. Yeah, that's right. Like it or not. What you hate you see is the I am in you and me. And we are better than that. And the world cannot hold back the power of even one soul. But you know what? We gotta try. There's no place to hide. The truth abides. And we are the dream that never dies. That's right. I am soul. Remember, every time you see a brother or a sister out there, someone on the other side, somewhere in the world or across the street or anywhere, another color, another creed, another culture, just remember that's you that you're looking at. And remember, we only have one thing in common. I am soul. And that's it. Namaste. All right, let's bring Jed on. He's been waiting patiently in the green room, as they say in TV. All right. Welcome to the show, everybody. These shows resonate with you. Please share so we can stay above these algorithms because they're suppressing the hell out of us, but that's okay. Here we go. Let me unmute you.
Brother.
Let me turn on your video. There's a little bugs. There you go. What's going on, brother?
Oh, I'm just gonna flash you this first. So here's Tata. There's the kiosk. And there's
what is that?
That's Tata. It's the Beach Kiosk Cafe.
Oh, wow. You're living on the beach now.
And then there's Tathra Beach. No, I live about 3 minutes drive, like just up the hill. And there were some whales jumping out the back earlier on. So I don't know if that angle is good. I can't see what you're seeing.
I can see it. I can see, if there were whales out there, I could see it. Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty beach, man. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's a nice little bay, the little cove right there. Yeah, very cool. Very cool.
Now let me go.
So, man, what is going on with you? You cut your hair. You got a collar on. You're making me feel like I'm a little underdressed now. You got some nice John Lennon glasses going. What's happening? And I know you've been on the move lately, because I was surprised to see you on the schedule, because I think I saw that you had a couple of weeks ago. You said you were on the move. You wouldn't have internet.
Yeah, that's right. I'm in my car. I'm just gonna I'll put video back on properly in a minute. Let me just I had my car sitting in the sun, and because it was quite cool, and now it's super warmed up. So I'm just gonna move my car around to the shade, and
there you go.
And then fill you in. So I knew the place I was in was like for 6 months, because the guy went up north traveling. And then in this area, there's nothing for rent, nothing, let alone what I can afford. There's nothing around. Well, actually, I could afford anything. Yeah. Shouldn't say that. And but then, I knew all the way along, the universe is like, it's covered. And then I sort of said, okay, can we sort this by the latest by my birthday? And early September, I think 2 days before I'd been in the real estate, nothing coming up, nothing. And then the next day or something, Jody rang me and said, oh, we've got this granny flat down in Tathra. Hang on, I wonder if I can set my phone up so you can actually just see me, or is that up my nose?
However you want to do, it's fine with me.
I don't have anywhere to kind of stick my phone in the car, so I'm trying to set it up. So,
that's cool.
I don't know if this is gonna.
It's all good. That's fine. Don't worry about it.
Is that working?
Don't worry about it. Valerie Peterman, our beloved sister, she says, the traveling troubadour, you cut your hair, you have a collared shirt on. What in the hell did you do with Jed? So you landed in a granny flat 3 minutes from the beach.
Yeah, and it's because the other thing, I had a feeling, I was like 5 minutes away in Callaroo, and my favorite house I've ever lived in, and I've lived in over 50 places, and that's not counting traveling. My favorite house I ever lived in, I used to live in some years back. I had the feeling it's just up the road from where I was living, and when I moved to that place in April, I had the feeling like, the person at Blackfella's house might move out. And so when Jody said there's nothing, I said to her, well, I'm just curious, any whisper on that person maybe? And she looked at me like, how do you know that? She said, oh yeah, by around Christmas, they'll be moving. They're waiting for their place to finish renovation. And so this place came up for 3 months, already furnished, really nice little place, 1-bedroom place, look out my back window and see whales. So yeah, anyway, don't want to get into the story too much, but just mention it of how, the universe provides.
Yeah, your story sounds, the energy of it sounds the same as so many people that are coming on the show, and that people you're observing out there in social media. We're 3 months is probably further into the future than most of them are seeing right now. Right, a lot of it's day to day, month to month, week to week.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I all my feelings and pointers are towards that. I'm going to get the house I love at Callaroo, and I need someone to share with, and that's probably going to happen. But I'm, like anything, I don't fixate on things. I don't attach to. I'm like, oh, whatever will be. That's just my sense in the now moment of where the future may be going. But yeah, on that point, it's interesting. I've heard you and others talking, and I've been feeling about what I call the abundance codes coming in, and it's interesting how it's funny actually. I was here yesterday. Let's tell that. So I was here the day before while and I were talking, and we were talking about the beloveds and the union and that energy coming in and those codes. And suddenly I had the sense there's whales. So I walked out on the beach and there was 2 whales in really close, just dancing and jumping and tail drumming. And they were literally saying, the message was essentially, it's here, feel this, see this, touch this, dance with this. This is how you make it real. And then yesterday, as soon as I turned up, there were dolphins, and I went up the beach, and they were fairly close in, but not riding close, just going along parallel, and they were kind of ahead of me. And I just spontaneously started singing, light language or soul speak or whatever you want to call it, as I always do on the beach. And I could so feel them communicating with me, and they actually, which they rarely do, it was a whole pod, but about 6 of them broke off and turned back. And right in line with me, they body surfed in right at my feet. I was worried they were going to beach themselves, and I could only go ankle deep because I had my pants and my phone. If I could have waded in thigh deep, I could have patted them. And they came in and they were dancing, literally dancing with me. And just at that moment, you guys popped in my head. And then at the next second was when Morgan messaged me about us meeting. So there's a lot going on.
Yeah,
anyway,
something's going down. You can't make this shift up. There ain't no way. That's an incredible story. But these things are happening more and more every single day, whether they be with starships or whether they be with animals or whatever the case may be. But I think the whale dolphin thing is a very, very powerful, significant part of this ascension, big part of this team, guardians, whatever you want to call them. I don't know what you want to call them. Now you said you were, just so everybody knows, you're very tight with someone who I absolutely love, McManus, up in the northern part of the U.S. He's incredible. I was really looking forward to trying to get together with y'all spontaneously a couple of weeks ago. It didn't work out, but we'll get there. But anyway, you just made reference to something which I think is very important. It's something that Morgan's been picking up on and talking about for the last week or week and a half, and she's referenced a couple other people talking about it, and you just referenced it in your conversation with before you went to see the whales. And what I'm talking about is, I think it's what you're saying, is the actual sacred union occurring within us that is becoming available, or that's here now. As the whales said, it's here now. Feel this. Is that what you guys were talking about? And if not, and if so, either way, can you talk about what you were talking about?
Yeah, oh man, there's so much, so I just keep trying to tune into what's essential to come through. But so yeah, maybe I'll talk about, okay, I'm going to get things in order, they're coming. So one thing I want to say is that then later that day, after I went home, out my back window, there were 2 to 3 dozen at least whales. There was a huge cloud mothership portal vortex. They were just pumping codes down, and there was 2 to 3 dozen whales at least dancing right beneath that vortex, just dancing in the codes. And there's all sorts of codes coming in, and they're interconnected, but the part of the essence or core for me is what I call the codes of the beloved, which is ultimately linked to the sacred divine union within oneself, which is ultimately linked to one's sovereignty, which is linked to abundance. So it's all interconnected. But I just quickly want to say too, then yesterday I was here and the dolphins and all that, and then I was still sitting in my car because I don't really have internet at home listening. I was kind of like, time to go home, and Spirit saying, no, just stay. There's someone else you're meant to connect with today. And so I waited, and there was only like 3 cars here, and plenty of car spots. And who pulls up right next to me but Fiona McLennan?
Are you serious?
Yeah, because
did you know she was in? Did you know she was in the area? Did you know she was even in the area, or she just pulled up, or had y'all met?
Yeah, because I don't know, over a year, 2 years ago or something, I don't even remember how. Somehow we connected on Facebook. We'd never spoken, but she mentioned, oh, there's a really good friend of mine in the Valley. You two would probably connect. So I actually met with her and we became friends. And then sort of through her, I'd had a conversation with her and Fiona one time or something in Zoom. And then I was really surprised one day when I saw you on with Fiona. I had no idea that she was connected in with you and talking. So anyway, she moved here from Western Australia. And I think back in about March, I turned up to see Katie, and Fiona was there. And we just had this galactic conversation for about 2 hours straight. And then I saw her once briefly at a market near here, but she was busy massaging. So I just waved. I didn't want to, disturb and talk to her. But I've been meaning to catch up with her. And then yesterday, we literally had a 5-minute spurt galactic conversation essentially about the abundance codes, and then like, oh, we got to catch up, but then she had to go. But yeah, I just thought I'd
So
mention that.
so she pulled. I just thought you'd mention it. That's very significant. I don't know what else would be more significant than that in this next hour. But so you were sitting there, and she pulled up, and you guys had a 5-minute interaction, and it will be
Yeah,
continued. That's what it
yeah,
sounds.
and she literally pulled up, like there's all this space, all these places, but she literally pulled up right next to my car, and she didn't recognize me. She didn't know my car, right? And I'm like,
Was she a little bit shocked? Was she a little bit shocked?
oh no, I think just nicely surprised. Like I was like, my spirit said and energy went, that's Fiona. But her hair was, I couldn't believe her hair had grown that much since I'd seen her. So I was like, the mind's going, I'm not sure, is that Fiona? Her hair couldn't be that long yet and stuff. But then I saw the number plate, like Western Australia
You
number
lost
plate, and
him
I'm like,
almost.
it is you. So yeah. Anyway, so that happened. So I just thought I'd mention that because I didn't know if you
Right
knew
on.
that we were both
Well,
in
I
the Beaver
mean,
Valley.
no, I did. Well, I don't even know. The only thing I don't know a whole lot about Australia other than Morgan Lee, but no, I do know a little bit of the geography, but I don't know. I don't know. I knew that she went on a spirit driven journey from the west to the east, and that she didn't know she was going to stay there, and all these things happened to her. But I was also going to say that, Fiona and I have probably done, I don't know, 15 shows together. I mean, she's going back to when we had like, I'm talking like 150, 200 episodes, we got 10 times, we got like 1,500 now. But yeah, she's been around for a long time. And if anybody wants to, check out Fiona's energy, just put in Facebook. I don't know how many we have on YouTube of her, but there's probably a few. But yeah, just put in Fiona McClellan and Soul Speaks 5D, and you'll get something. You'll get something every time from every show. She's always got something going on. Very, very powerful lady. Very, very courageous lady too, and puts it
Yeah,
out there. Really puts it out there.
she does. She's very real, and she's very tuned in. So yeah,
So
as
she
I
was
said,
talking abundant. So she was talking abundance codes. You were already talking to about that. People have been talking about the abundance codes. They've been talking about freedom codes. You talk about there's a connectivity between, I forget how you put it, but basically the beloved coming in, connected to sacred union, connected to sovereignty. Talk a little bit about that. How does that all relate? Where does it start? Is it the beloved coming in? Is that energy on a collective scale ready and available for everyone now?
um, yeah, I think it is. I mean, I could say at the core root of all of it, and that's what Fiona said about the core root of the lack programming, the matrix thing of scarcity and lack, and opening to true abundance is really, again, ultimately comes down to, you could say, lack of the lack of self-worth programming, but I could say, put that as a way of just the core root of separation, which we did, as an experience when we came in. But that experience is essentially, for the collective, for me, we're done with that. So but there were so many layers of programming and conditioning to reinforce that on top, that we've been clearing out, purging this year so strongly. But it really, now it's there. So that day when the whales were dancing under the vortex, and then that night I went out and tuning into what I call the don't ask me why I was given this word years ago, the rhythmus of the stars. There's something particular why it's not rhythm, it's rhythmus. And what I got, and I've never put it, I mean, I've talked about the Christ unity codes coming in, I talk about rainbow energies and stuff, but the wording I got was they were just completely in celebration. And the message I got, or wording, was that the rainbow Christ codes have landed and are being installed and assimilated. And what I had that whole sense of, the whole thing about the second coming of Christ. And I've said for years, it's, the second coming of Christ in a way is as us embodied and then collectively. So for whatever it's worth, that's the message I got. Now,
I think there's, I think there might, I don't know, there might be one, more than one name for all that's coming down, but there's no doubt about it that something's changed. I mean, I don't know, you can't take anything away from the universe. I mean, you can't extract anything. I guess you can extract illusion or transform the energy, but I don't really want to get into all that. But what I'm saying is, it seems like something's fallen off, like the old projection or whatever is not being supported anymore. It's not being projected anymore. I don't know if it's just not what, or maybe this new energy, these higher levels of awareness, codes, consciousness have moved some stuff out. I don't know, but it just seems like there's a lot of fairy tales going on right now, and they all seem to be headed the same direction.
Yeah. And I just keep saying it's all happening. It's all happening. It's all a part of it. And all the not that I get to listen to them all, but the ones I listen to, like the people you've had on, like, just for instance, Franco Di Nicola, his way of putting things, or his clarity of information, even when he talks about like the percentages of the matrix dissolving, I completely relate to that.
Yeah.
So, but each one you have on, they have their let's say their particular perspective, their particular area of sphere of activity or area of influence, or particular aspects of codings, and yet it's really just different fractals or aspects of the same thing, and together we make the whole. That together what is the thing, I love that saying, what's that saying, you have an ever adding frequencies to an ever, what is that saying you have?
Yeah, adding adding additional frequencies to an ever expanding vibration.
Yeah, I love that.
Adding frequencies, continuously adding frequencies. Yeah, you're right about that. Let me ask you this. I mean, you've got a really, first of all, you're masculine, and most of the type of intel or frequency or communication or code that comes out of people, typically most of the time it's been a feminine, it's been a woman. So you're a little bit unique there, because you have been doing it a while too, but you have a nice mix of verbalizing it and expressing it through art and music, as well as getting some pure intel, as you're describing about Franco and different people. Have you so in terms of the way Ged experiences things, I mean, do you have, I mean, I know you must have dimensional experience, interdimensional experience, whatever you want to call it, meditations, communion, whatever, you're getting this information in some form or fashion that you're understanding, and you're then relaying to everybody. Have you had any, what I would want to call like monadic experiences? Have you had any experiences, dimensionally or not, where you're like, there's a connection between those that you're speaking with up here and those that you're interacting with down here? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. Yeah, absolutely. And it takes me back to, you mentioned earlier, I did actually mention to hey, do you want to join in on with Todd and I tomorrow? But he's actually got a client at this time, so he couldn't do it. So yeah, I have. Okay, So it's all one soul family. Ultimately, I don't just mean humanity. I mean the galactics, the elementals, all the different. No, we're one big family. And in a way, essentially, there's been with the Orion Wars and all of that. There's been like one gigantic family feud, and that's all being resolved now. So the peace protocols and peace codes have come in and gone out there, and a lot of the Dracos are opening to the heart code within them and turning into what I call rainbow serpents. They're amazing when they open to the heart code and transform. So I can put it simply and say all is being resolved. Humanity were kind of designed, the hue men or hue women, we were kind of the hue, the multicolored. We were kind of designed to have the genes of a lot of the galactic races in order to bring about the resolvement of this ancient conflict. That's one of the reasons why Earth is center stage at the moment, and why we are kind of central. You keep saying human is the hero. Now, everybody's playing their part. Everybody's involved. But to my understanding, humans have been, that's why we even had the reptilian brain part in this. We needed it all in order to be able to, in a way, resolve and harmonize it all and bring it to resolution. Again, like always, this is this is my particular version, my particular narrative of way of seeing or expressing it. So, as always, I mean, for people, take what resonates and chuck the rest. But
well, it only makes sense. It only makes sense that Morgan's great saying of a copy is a copy is a copy. We were talking about this on the morning show with our new friend. God, I forgot her name. But anyway, that the cycles would be the same. So if you see a lot of even in what's been hidden and what hasn't been, you usually see this like idealistic equal. At least that's what's being said. A frequency of equality, of sovereignty, and such. And you see this cycle go up. You can look at, say, in Atlantis or Lemuria, the different civilizations that have risen and fallen, but it's almost like creation bursts something, from an integration of the extremes within the spectrum, and it starts to have a run, and then chaos starts to creep in because somebody starts to get in the way or whatever, and then that's the cycle of rebirth. And it seems like maybe that's what you're describing, is that this universal alignment or correction that's centered here, where we have the most vast extremes of physical, non-physical, dark and light, whatever you want to call it. I think he disappeared. Or he wanted to take a wee.
Decided.
That's what they say in Australia. Oh, you dropped out. Oh, wait a minute. Hang on a second. Uh-oh. Okay, I think you're back.
Yeah, no,
you're good.
My network, normally the signal here is really fine and strong, but it literally just dropped out all of a sudden. So I think I woke up this morning feeling the way my body and stomach felt. Like I'm good, but I felt like, okay, big soulless human going on today. So,
a big what?
Oh, solar geomagnetic. I'm guessing the Schumann.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, just finish what you're saying, because you froze for me and dropped out on the last bit. So can you repeat?
No, I was just saying, no. Yeah, I was just saying the way you explained it was that it's like, there's this cycle of from a birth, a birth, which seems to be out of what we might call chaos, and you have this birth where everything gets integrated and it's balanced and it's equal and it starts to rise, and then somebody starts to get in the way, the thought, the I am God, or the opposite of the reality. But I mean, but anyway, and then it starts to, produce all these contrast, and all these polarities, and then you bring it back together. And that seems to be like what we're on the cusp of, or actually in now. I think, for a long time we were saying the last couple of years, we're on the cusp of entering the new earth, but it's like we're here now. I mean, it's done. Now we just play it out. And I don't mean to make light of it, but because at the same time, the whole idea is to create from the space that we're at and come up with something new, basically.
Oh man, you're pinging and activating so many things and so many points. So one that's coming is, okay, I'm getting this is important. So to me, in a way, it's almost like a sine wave on a graph, right? Above the line, below the line, above the line. But it's actually, if you look at it that way, it's the way we move through the universe. It actually moves like a spiral. Yeah. And it's constantly, I mean, the one thing I've completely seen and felt and known from experience, and it's the best way I can put it in a way, what's the meaning of life? It's just life. But in a way, it's evolutions, ever evolving, ever, as you said, it's like you're saying, that ever adding the frequencies to an ever expanding universe, or however you put it. But the point you ping me on to say with that is, so we've been in a cycle for soul growth experience of extreme contrast, of extreme polarity, really going into the dark and light, to where it's gone into conflict, extreme polarity, duality, in order for that contrast creates, and contrast makes soul growth. So we took that to the extreme, and now we're coming back, or in many ways we are already there, coming back out of that. And the point that you really ping me on, they're prompting me to say is to, in my understanding, and Om and I have talked about this, that part of the magic and the beauty of the universe is that whatever you go through, and we can talk this on the microcosmos of personal experience of an extreme trauma, or you could call dark experience, dark night of the soul, or whatever, to the collective greater, when you come out of it, there's always the potential that once you've actually gone through the stages of transformation, which is acknowledgement, acceptance, understanding, and then transformation, so fully resolved and integrated that experience, any wounding is healed. You come back into wholeness, and it happens as if, in a way, as if the wounding never happened, but you're left with the knowledge and the wisdom and the soul growth from that experience. So in simple terms, the pain's gone, but the experience has remained. And so this is the important point. Yeah. So there's what we're doing in a way is we're merging or returning back into what I would call more the prime source timeline. So in that timeline, Atlantis, Mu never fell. Atlantis never fell.
That's right.
Yeah. So, but we have the experiences and all the knowledge from that experience of the timelines of where they did. But anyway, you get it, what I'm saying. But that's to my knowing.
No, I get that. Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And going back to Franco, you referenced Franco earlier, in the way he explains it, and again, a copy is a copy is a copy, everything's replicated. He talks about that. He talks about how that experience never happened. You get to this point, and I think it was him that was talking about it. And like you said, you have the wisdom and the knowledge and the growth from it, but you didn't. But it doesn't hurt anymore. I think that's what you said. How you put that? Yeah, I think that's that describes. And so it's like, and I don't know. Maybe this is how it relates at the boots on the ground level. At least for me, it's like I can't listen to the stories anymore. Like I'm sitting here as I interact with people, as we've been on the road, and somebody wants to talk about this, and it could be something, and I know it's valid, and I know it's relative, it's important, so I'm trying to be present, but I'm having a really hard time, like listening to the story. I'm like, oh my God, I can't hear this. I can't, they're not being 3D, and I'm not, you know what I mean? I got all that going in my head, and maybe that's part of it is, it's like, enough of that, it's just like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like, it's gone. And I guess everybody's picking up on it.
Yeah, I've been very much the same. So others I know, it's in a way, the only interest I have in it, my spirit, my being, I have in it, in a way, is as an indication of where the collective or parts of the collective are still what they're still playing out. And that playing out, I mean, when I say that, I don't mean any judgment like, oh, hurry up, get your act together, they're behind. No, that is a part of what is creating this transformation. So they're playing their part in that, but it's not, in a way, that's not, and it's no less or more valid. That's just not my particular part now. So I see it as more an indication or reflection of what is still playing out. But other than that, I have no interest in. I have no interest to engage or involve in it, because to me, in a way, it really is part of the old storylines that are finishing up now. And I'm very, very much about what you said to me. Okay, so September this year, a lot has been about huge purging, and I say the purge is the merge. Now I feel like from the 1st of September, almost the bulk of the purge was done. Still there's still a little bit, but not a lot left. I think we're much more into the merge, and now from the 1st of October, bang, it was like a whole new world. It's landed. And now it's really, really landing and being installed. There's new codes pouring in every day, multiple times a day. And it's all, to me, about the embodiment. And this is what the key for me, to the essential key, at least in this period, at this time, but I think in a way always, is full soul embodiment. We've been walking towards embodying completely our full soul embodiment, or at least the fractals of our greater oversoul that we're meant to bring in and embody in this incarnation. We can't bring them all in. And it's about completely opening and integrating all of the soul fractals we've gathered are now coming back into wholeness. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say just along on that line. So, I mean, there's been, there's been enough stated by enough people to look at something with some substance and credibility, and that is, this isn't our first time. And I mean, beyond the new age-ish, cliche-ish type of, comment that might sound like, but this isn't our first time. I know a lot of the stuff that we receive isn't like, coming in like human language code, but from a higher sensitivity standpoint, do you get a feeling, or do you ever like say, wow, I'm on to this? I mean, this is familiar, this ascension, this rising, this expansion, this growth, whatever you want to call it, is familiar. And if so, I mean, do you feel like this is an incredibly unique, special time, place, experience?
Yes to all that. Yeah, I mean, particularly when when that's something that really happened. I think we really went quantum, and in the quantum, we still experience and move within and through linear time, but we also experience non-linear time, where all time is now, and whatever fractals of us, whatever timelines, whatever incarnations, whatever is of, it all works on a need to know basis. So what is of relevance, or what is of use, is a good way to say it, in the now. So there's the aspect, in a way, where our future selves, the familiarity is that our future selves, who are already on the other side of this, very much, I think, where we are now, actually in the unfolding of the dancing awake. To me, we're already on the other side, in a way. But there's that. But there's many other aspects of where we've done this in different ways, in different times, in different races, different planets, different. So there's all of that as our own soul experience, as well as the universal collective knowing, and would you call it Akashic or whatever. So to me, there's all of that, but I can also would add, what I think was not add, part of what you were saying, expand upon, was that it's also unique and never quite been done before in this way. I mean, that's true of the universe. In every moment, there's it's always new and evolving in each new moment. But yes, what can I say? I can't say there's no times or places in the past or the future. I mean, we're going to be helping with other shifts, those of us who choose to, and other planets in the so-called future. I can't say this scale has never been done before, but I think it's pretty rare, and and it's at least unique in this moment as it is. It's yeah, it's
Well, if you can measure it by the ass whooping we went through, I think we're doing pretty good. I'm just kidding.
yeah. Oh no,
So
yeah.
I mean, I'm curious from a personal standpoint. I'm just curious. That's the way my mind works. I'm intrigued by the connection you have and what you pull in. And I pick it up with everything that I see you do. It's not always what's actually said. It's like in between the lines, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Do you, yes, a specific, and more importantly, recently, do you, you know, and I know everybody's different, but is there a certain type of essence that typically comes in or has been coming in? And I'm talking galactic or angelic or whatever, elemental, whatever. But is there something that seems to be more prominent in the communications you're getting from infinite intelligence from the universe?
That's a really good question. I'm just feeling into how I can, because that's the other part about.
Does it feel galactic? Does it feel galactic to you? I mean, I'm not, because
I,
to me, I don't even.
well, it's kind of, it's a smorgasbord. I mean, it's galactic, and I have to say that prior to probably about 2013, the galactic was, it was part of my awareness, but it was not part of my focus in my life, in a way. But it came in strongly because it was time. It was the realization in a way of the importance of our whole history, and the galactic is you can't take that out of the equation. So suddenly that came into my field of focus and sphere of influence as important. So there's a lot of galactic and all sorts of races. And again, through this year, throughout, there's been different periods. I mean, it happened again a few days ago with this huge kind of shift that happened for the collective, where I have to say with that, on the day they said, this again was a huge shift. That they only happened, like this year, they've maybe happened a couple of times, where it's such a quantum leap, it's a quantum shift. And they said, again, this is the biggest quantum leap humanity has taken yet. So
Wow, that's interesting you say that, because those exact words I've never heard you say it before, but those exact words, almost to the T, Morgan stated within the last 2 weeks. It was like 10 to 14 days ago, maybe, and she said for like 2 days, she said, you know, she kept getting, this is the biggest elevation that we've had, you know, collectively. This is the biggest one, you know. And I want to say
yeah,
that was around 1010, or maybe right before 1010 or right around 1010.
yeah, I think it started really, I mean, there's lots of different codes each day, but that was overarching codes of this particular shift. Yeah, started coming in, I don't know, sometime around there. I know it was like at least maybe 3 or 4 days before the full moon. And then it really
Yeah.
kind of peaked
Yeah.
on or around or just after the full moon. But
Yeah, the
sorry,
full
so
moon was the 13th. So that's, yeah, the math's the same there. The math's the same there. And then I've been seeing other people writing about, and that's another thing I've noticed too, because it's been happening gradually, where people's intel, whether they're speaking it the way Franco does, or you do, or Morgan does, or whoever the case is, but it's all kind of saying the same thing. It's like, you know, people talk about, oh, I write something, and then 2 days later I see people writing the same thing, but it's like all happening at the same time. And on that subject, oh, I think it was yesterday, along the lines of a lot of people writing the same thing, saying what you're saying, especially since the 1st of October. Amanda Lawrence, our beloved sister, she wrote something, yesterday talking about the next 3 months, or October, November, December, talking about that linear thinking, I believe is what she said in the top of the first paragraph, linear thinking leaving. Like we've been talking about this for months on this show. People saying, man, I can't, like, I don't know what time it is. I don't know what day it is. I don't know what month it is. Like you almost like you're going to this state of just total loss of short-term memory. But I think that's what you were talking about earlier. This linear thing goes along with what we're detaching from. Does that resonate with you? I mean, are you
Yeah, and
feeling that? Are you
yes, and
operating in a
that's
quantum?
yeah, and that's part of what the essence of what is trying to come through in a way. And again, it's just a way of putting it. But when you go quantum, the information, the way it comes in and the way you process it, not only is it, I mean, it literally is the quantum. It's just, and I know many of us have been experiencing this more and more and more and more. Information that comes in, and this answers, I'm kind of answering a couple of questions in here. So for me, yes, it's galactic, absolutely. Many different races, more and more I'm aware of, more and more connecting with and in a moment, if we've got time, I'll get into the more personal story of Ged and Leah, the beloved, Leah and the lion beings, right?
Go
So the
ahead, do
lion,
it. Do it.
yeah, but I will in a minute, so, but it's a galactic, it's the elemental, it's the all the different grids, it's the earth grid, the elemental grids, it's the fae, the fairies, the dragons, it's the giants, it's all of it, the Sasquatch, all of it, including, the dogs that I love to pat and just connect with and commune with, or the people just here and now on the beat, and that's a part of. So okay, so I think a lot of the difficulty a lot of people have been perhaps struggling with, and even a lot of the body stuff, it's not just the purging and the integrating and the upgrading. I think and a lot of the anxiety and stuff can be that when we're still trying to, in a way, navigate or process, we're getting quantum information, we're going quantum, but we're still trying to process it in a way with the linear ego mind. And I'm not knocking the ego mind or the logical mind. The mind absolutely has its place. It's a beautiful tool and we need it. It's a tool in our toolkit, but it's not very good at being the master trying to control and manage everything. But quantum is incredibly complex. It's much more the direct experience of the interconnectedness of all things. So the only way to really process it is in its absolute, within quantum, there is also the absolute simplicity. There is an absolute essence and simplicity. And the only way to really dance with it, to process the information, to really dance with it as a living embodied within your life, is to in a way drop out of the mind, or that letting that part of the mind that wants to control it, let it go. I'm not doing very well how to put it, but everybody knows what I'm talking about, right? When we just drop into our heart, it's also to do with open to our divine sovereignty, our divinity within our humanity, where they marry together, that meeting point, that tiny spark of that divine within us, that absolute essence, simplicity, which is very much the embodiment is the here and now, and as our earthly experience in this every day. So my living experience is very much all of that. It's galactic, and it's all of that, but it's not, how can I put it? It's not out there mystical. It's just in here every day. It's no different from the bird that comes and chats with me, or a leaf falling from a tree in the wind, or the feeling of the sand upon my feet, or anyway, you know what I mean? It's somehow, and I'm not saying it very well, but it's somehow in this.
No, you got it. You got it. No.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. It is hard to explain. There's no doubt. What I think is interesting too is what's happening as these codes, these abundant abundance, freedom, sovereignty, et cetera, codes are coming in. Uh, the the effect that it's having on what I would call the disclosure narrative, the conspiracy narrative, the truth movement narrative. I mean, there's something happening there where there's like a split. And the split kind of, I guess, in layman's terms would be, are we still going to talk about this story? Or are we going to put our money where our mouth is and be what we're coming into a knowing of what we are? You know, in other words, that whole thing, that quantum nonlinear thinking creates this creative energetic seed that's rooted in our intentions, our conscious intentions. And it's like all that stuff is kind of becoming irrelevant. I don't know. I can't identify and resonate with it anymore. You know, I used to research a little bit. And now it's like, you know, why am I doing this? It doesn't do anything. What are your thoughts on that? I'm just curious.
Yeah, well, I mean, that comes back to touch upon. I love the way this conversation is quite quantum, because we're coming back and touching upon certain points, but we're weaving. It's like weaving a hole, and it's almost like a stargate. We activate this runestone and this runestone, and we come back and we activate that, and then in the end, when you touch them all, and then finally, it's like, okay, now here's the keystone, boom, and then you get the sense of completion. So it's all of that, and then there's like an essence code. Anyway, I love the way this is.
Then the whole grid gets, the whole thing gets lit. But before, I don't want to get out. I don't want to run out of time. I want you to tell us about the Lyrian thing. I think that's what you said, Leah. The beloved thing. Can you tell us about? What that's about?
So I'll try and I seem to be really good at making short stories long, but then I try to make long stories short, but then it's such an involved story. So I'll try and, because I am getting to speak on this now, and it's funny because I'm also in, and this could be completely my projection, right? But my sense is I almost can feel Morgan there, like prompting me. She wants to speak about the beloved, speak about the Haragamos, and you know, it could be completely my projection. But I feel that not as a pushing, not as a pressure. It's wonderful, you know. So okay, I'll try and do as simple and quick a version as I can. I'll try and pull the simplicity thread out of the quantum.
You're good. You're good. Just go with it. Don't think about it.
So, okay, let's start with this. I'm not exactly sure of the age. I kept getting that it was 4. It could have been 5. It was certainly no older than 6 or 7. No, that's too old. I kept getting around 4. I had a dream. I mean, way more than a dream, but let's call it was a dream in my sleep. And in that dream, I was a man, grown man. And I experienced the sort of thoughts and feelings as a grown man, which, you know, I'd never done up to that point as a 4-year-old kid. And there's going to be tears for this. Beautiful tears. So I experienced, and in a way it's the same thing. One can say our experience of separating from source, which we never ultimately did, but we experienced it within the matrix as we did. And that's the core wound. For me, it was also personally experienced as the separation from my beloved. Now, this dream was, let's say, the focus of it was to do with a particular past life memory. But that was more like the tip of the iceberg, the manifestation for all of the different lives and timelines this is played out in, and for the essential wound of separation from the beloved myself. That was where I first became, at least in this life stream, in this consciousness stream, in this life. I didn't know her name then, but of Leah, of my beloved. And the pain of that, I was at a grave, and I've ever since been a little haunted by Celtic graves that are Celtic crosses. And that particular life was to do with, as I often was, being a troubadour or a sailor. I was a sailor and came home to find the beloved in her grave. And that incredible pain. And also for me, and it's been one of my core things to work out, an incredible sense of guilt and shame, as if somehow I could have saved her, if only I'd been here. So I don't need to more try and express the pain of that. Everybody knows it. But the depth of that pain, the intensity of that, and that I experienced it, as I say, as a grown man, not as a 4-year-old child, that was, I could probably say I've never had a dream, and I've had some doozies, but I've never had one in my life that was as deep and as clear and as profound and has been in a way at the core, even if it hasn't been my constant focus directly, it's been at the core basis of my path of my life and my own true soul yearning. So update that to at about 24, when I was on retreat up at Chen Rei's up Tibetan Buddhist community, doing my own kind of retreat. I very strongly then connected with Leah. I still didn't know her name then. To me, she was the White Lady, and she is an emanation or an embodiment on the 7th light plane of the White Lady, which to me is the Christ this time is returning. The Christ is beyond feminine or masculine, but Christ is returning this time as a feminine embodiment or a feminine expression. Even though it's beyond, it includes both, it's beyond either or, but we can say the energies can be more expressed in this way or that way. So that's, in a way, it's part of the whole story. That's another whole thing in itself, in a way, but I'll touch upon that. So
that resonates.
And I could say, in a way, I've known, I mean, I knew since I was 7, but I've known more clearly since then. If I had to sum up, and it's just labels, it's just a way of expressing things, it's just putting it into a narrative. But if I had to name my essential soul purpose in this life, and where we're at now, is everything in a way has been preparation for this, for our true, complete soul path, soul purpose, fully embodied soul expression now. To me, I could sum it up by saying, I'm here to help build the temple to the White Lady. And that temple may or may not be crystalline, energetic, or even stone and wood in years to come. But what I want to really stress is that it's not about building, in a way, another religion. And the temple is ultimately the temple within each of us. The union of the Excalibur and the Grail, the sword and the Grail, the Hyros Gamos within each of us. Remembering the sacred blood that's within all of us. Sorry, I'm just...
No, I got you.
Silence ate my head.
No, I got you, man.
Okay. So that's the key. The next point. The temple, it's within, but then, and this is very much the importance of what we are about now, where we're at now, what this Christ unity consciousness in embodiment, in activation is about, to me, in my perspective now, it is in true community. So it's communion with self as source, with source, as a human being. Then for those that, well, I think it relates to all at some level. You could say the union of the beloved within the divine masculine, feminine, to achieve to the trinity of the divine child, which is also the heart and the doorway to the Christ consciousness. Within the tree of life, the point in the center in the heart called Tiparet, which means beauty. It literally, in its beauty in the truest sense of the word, that is the Christ point. So anyway, I don't want to get lost here with this. But it's the church for want, the temple or the church for want, in a way, it's us within, but then we're not alone. We're not an island. So it's the union of our ultimately one big soul family, but then you could say soul tribe, soul group, soul tribe, soul family, core soul pod, and those who we are going to be, in a way, living and working and dancing with actually in community. So
Yeah.
so it's the living
So
embodied.
yeah.
Please, no, you say it, please. You probably bring it
No,
through
I
clearer
get
than
what you're
me.
saying. I get what you're saying, and like the second coming being, I understand what you mean by it not being one gender or the other, but there is at some level, or I don't know how to explain it, but it is a feminine. It is in a feminine form, feminine as in an energy, a softness, a powerfulness. I mean, a lot of things, but and maybe we're explaining it that way based on the void of that feminine energy or the suppression of that feminine energy that's actually coming out in everybody. I get what you're saying. It absolutely resonates. Now, do you, and I also get what you're saying too, as in terms of the multiplicity of it, how it expands. It's not just in the sacred union within ourselves, and it's not just say two people coming together like Morgan and I. It's not just these things. It's all of these things and new things in these relations and these connections that we make. It's an embodiment that is actually touches every single aspect of our experience, which is mind blowing, because you're talking about a pure conscious, an energy of pure consciousness, pure love. I mean, that would be the closest way I could describe it. That carries with it automatically. It's just a new game. It's new rules. It's not even like anything we can fathom, which is the trajectory of where we're at. Do you think that, or like in your own experience, are you seeing evidence in the physical interactions with other people, or even other initiatives, where you're seeing this consciousness, this second coming Christ consciousness in manifestation, materialization?
Very, very much so. Very much so. I mean, yes, I see it. I mean, I see very clearly within the energetic grids and within the collective humanity grid. But but I also see it very much, and that's one of the things that's really been really happening in the last month or so, particularly this month, is the living experience of it. We're in a new world. It's here.
Yeah.
But when
Yeah.
I say that again, I don't. How can I put it? It's it's a very simple, natural, organic, here and now experience. Right? When I say I really feel like I'm experiencing, in a way, living
Yeah.
in the new earth, it's not. It's not like, oh wow, I'm over here in some mystical 5D land, right? It's I just see and
Yeah.
feel and taste it. And it's a
Yeah.
lot to do. A lot to do with me this year has been a lot about my own embodiment. Coming back in as, okay, I popped
Yeah.
open, the ego popped open to the awareness of in a way what I really am, that the ego is a part of that. But let's say the
Yeah.
universal self, right? God source self, universal mind. But then in a way bringing that, we go up and out, but then in a way we can get stuck in up and out. We can get lost in absolutism. We can get drunk on emptiness, the disassociation. There's nobody here, there's no person, there's nobody, da da da. And that can be a very unassailable position to
I
be.
know. Yeah. Yeah. It makes light of the situation. That's why I don't really have ever really resonated with like the Far Eastern stuff, most of it, because it's like almost makes life insignificant. I'm like, what? I mean, no, there's something happening that's more extraordinary than just living, just being alive. Although that is the gift. It's the actual unification. Maybe it's a trinity of where you actually merge your free will with universal will or alignment, and it creates this I don't know, this furnace of new ideas and creation. Basically, it's the creation seed. You know, to me, when I hear "made in the image," that to me comes closest for me, which is I'm a creator. I am the master creator. I can create whatever I want. How do I get there? You know, I don't know. I don't know. It's fascinating getting these updates from everybody all around the world because everyone's got their own way of putting it out there. But I feel like we're all coming together in alignment, and I call it the Soul Highway. I
Yeah,
wish
yeah, no,
next time we get together that we got to get your guitar out. That's going to be one of the requirements. I got to tell Morgan
well,
that.
I'm
So,
getting a
but
mate of mine sending me up his old phone, so I will actually have like internet at home and that soon. But I'll also, you know, and I might have more of an update there on the actual the embodiment of my beloved coming into. Do we have like 1 minute really quickly? I'll say at
go
the end of my
ahead. Go ahead.
at the end of my first quantum healing hypnosis therapy session I did a few years ago. It was actually on 11/11 at 11 a.m. and a house number was number 11 in 2015. That's funny. The very
No,
end,
that wasn't important. You don't need to tell us about that.
at the very end,
That was
Leah came in and basically, I mean, energetically, really, but I translate in her voice. She said, like, silly you, winking, smiling, laughing at me with me. Silly you, did you forget that I too am a multidimensional being and that I can manifest in your timeline reality anytime I want? And the unspoken word after at the very end was when you're ready.
wow. Yeah, we need to get an update
And
on
I
that.
met,
And Morgan sees
yeah,
this part.
well,
Yeah.
the last bit I can say is I met an embodiment of Leah, and I've never done that before, late last year. Now,
Wow.
there's not a story. There was no story. This is in divine, pure love. There's no attachment. There's no story. But all I can say is my energy field felt her before I saw
Right.
her. I felt her, wow. And then I saw her and I was literally like, my spirit was just like, oh my God, it's Leah. And then she looked up, it was like she felt me and looked up and noticed me and said, oh, wow. And now she's partnered with a person. They've got kids. There's no story to this where I went, oh my God, that's my Leah. It's destiny. We're meant to be together, right? It's an essence thing. But it literally was an embodiment. And as she walked up and introduced, she said, hi, I'm Leah. And I laughed. And she looked at me like smiling, but, and
Are
I had
you
to,
shitting me? Are you
I'm not,
serious?
yep, I'm not.
Holy, you can't make
I
this.
just,
You can't make
no,
this
you
shift
can't.
up.
And I just
Wow.
said, I laughed and said, "Of course you are." And she looked bemused, but in a really not in a negative way, like smiling. And I said, "Oh, explain." And I wasn't going to tell her the whole story. I just said, "Oh." I just said, "Oh, yeah, I'm laughing because you carry half my name." Because I said, "Yeah, I'm Ged." But then
Were you?
I said to
Were
her,
you?
not many people know, but I said,
Did,
my full name is actually Ged Alia,
that's an
and
understatement.
that came from when I was 27 and I did a life and death arrow ceremony, Native American ceremony. And what I was bringing in was, and I got was Ged. It was like Ged and an ampersand, Ged and Leah. And I got Ged Alia. And I didn't know until later, when I actually changed my name several years later, did I discover that that is actually an old Hebrew name. And it means
So,
essentially,
so do you think you'll be? Do you think you'll be seeing her again?
as much as I know anything, yes, there's soul, but there was soul family connection with her partner as well and with her children. Like this is what I mean. there's
I don't
no,
doubt. I don't doubt that a bit. I'm not. Yeah,
yeah,
I get you. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying because the truth is, of course, I gotta say that story and her name to be Leah and all that. I mean, that's just like okay. But the way I always looked at it with Morgan was if it's not, it's going to be something that's good or better than I can imagine myself, either with her or someone else. I mean, it's you got to stay open to everything, you know. But it sure sounds powerful to me. So whatever it is, it at a minimum, it's a sign that of showing you synchronistically the trajectory that you're on, which is huge. And I think there's a lot of other people, or at least a significant number of people that are hitting that same frequency, at least bobbing in and out. And I love what you said uh, about the line. You were saying how it's more of a spiral, you know, and so it's not to me that took it from a horizontal, oh, you're below the line and you're above the line, to it's a vertical, and there is no dark and light. It's just you're weaving in and out, and that's that's how I see what is happening because you're elevating. But that's a huge sign. That's a very, very strong sign. I appreciate you
yeah. I mean,
coming
I
on short
think
notice. I
we got to
think
go.
it's
Yeah. All right.
I
Sorry.
got to go because I've done 3 shows. I got 2 more to do, and when I start to lose my train of thought, I'm in trouble. So I got to go take a lunch break. But yeah, no, we'll do it again soon. Yeah, and I'd love to get me, you, and Alm on. That'd be cool. I love talking to him. You know, it's always nice talking
Yeah.
to the elves.
Yeah.
I asked him
Yeah.
one day. I was like, "Do you have like a connection? Do you have a connection to the elementals?" He's like, "You're looking at one." Yeah, he's
Well,
funny. He's
Om and
cool.
I
He's got some
work
great.
in the last at different periods, and I would say probably in the last month or so, we pretty much touch in day and the daily. There's work. We're doing work. Well, it's more like play, really, bringing more codes through, and we activate one another like we all do,
Yeah,
like you and I do in this conversation. So, but he is my, yeah, he's
yeah.
really like we're like the terrible twins. We've been in and out of all sorts of trouble, all
I
sorts
know,
of
man.
lives, all sorts of places.
Yeah. It didn't surprise me at all that you guys were connected the way you are. All right, brother. I'll touch you later.
Much
I
love,
got to sign off now.
love to
Peace out.
all, love to
All right.
Morgan.
We'll get out. We'll reach out to you soon. Right on,
Yep,
brother. Thank
awesome, brother.
you.